So I'm going to introduce the names and then let them basically take it from there. So on my left, I have Tony. He's coming from Mars Petcare, and different areas of technology, I think previously also on different manufacturing areas. We have Amit from Novelis, aluminum manufacturing and operations, and we have Prashanth coming from General Electric. So to start, I'll ask Prashanth to introduce himself and let us know about his industry and what he's been doing.
Thanks, Mike. Super excited to be here in front of an elite panel and all the innovative brains in the industry. So I'm Prashanth. I'm with GE Vernova, or Renewable Energy. It's been an exciting 14-year journey with GE across multiple domains of supply chain. I've been in manufacturing, lean manufacturing, quality, digital initiatives, digital transformation, and my most current role is leading a global operations leader for a $500 million business. We're into solar and energy storage. And I've had the opportunity to run factories and be part of supply chain across the globe, starting from India, China. I also had an opportunity to live in Europe and Middle East to manage the supply chains and factories there. And last few years has been mostly in the North American region. Once again, really happy to be here and looking forward to a great conversation. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And next we go to Amit. Amit, would you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay, so my name is Amit Dingare. I lead the Global Data Science and Insights team at Novelis. We are a 20+ people strong team. About 5 years ago, I was hired in Novelis. I actually came from a non-manufacturing background, and I was hired to come and build a team when Novelis decided to make a decision to do a step function change in their organization to bring AI and Industry 4.0 capabilities. So long story short, we are now from 0 to 25 people strong team in 7 countries doing applications of AI and various Industry 4.0.
Great, thank you. And Tony, please.
Great. So Tony, can you guys hear me? Yeah. All right. Tony Muthalaly. So I've been with Mars for about 7 years. I've been doing roles from operations, factory operations, to regional and global engineering. My current role is leading the global digital engineering team. So it's a new team that we're building because digital is a big topic. Trying to understand what that is and standardize on it. But Mars is a company, if you guys aren't aware, we make candy, we make pet food. So if you guys are familiar with M&M's, Skittles, Snickers, that's us. We also make for our Petcare business, Pedigree, Iams, and then we also do Uncle Ben's Rice in our Mars food business. So it's a very large and global business, and I've worked throughout all of them so far, and now focus primarily on pet care.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction and having the esteemed panel here. So from my own experience, AI had profound impact in terms of running manufacturing, designing sensors, shipping sensors, and one example is finding patterns in the data that there are failures or unknown failures that are happening, and how to empower the organization to actually ship quality products. I would love to learn, we can start with you, Tony, how AI from your line has helped in your organization.
Great. Well, I guess in our worlds, I'm not sure how many people are from manufacturing, but we talk about digital twin. It's like the buzzword for the past couple of years. No one really knows what it should be. Sometimes it's just a simulation that we've always been doing in engineering, and now it's just connecting it. But the value we've seen from deployments is really like making Skittles. It sounds simple, but we don't even know the process that well. We're surprised there's variables that we've never even considered. So digital twin, or just connecting the data together using AI and finding correlations and then understanding our process really well, that's a value. Understanding if there's humidity increases from the temperature outside, how does that impact our process? So those variables that we haven't identified, that's the value of AI for us, is to help us see those insights and then help us and people to drive those innovations and improvements rather than just relying on AI to tell us the answer.
Great, thank you so much for sharing that. And Amit, in terms of Novelis and a lot of operations and supply chain that you're running, how's that have been impactful on your end?
Yeah, So in our case, when it comes to operations, right, we use AI for 4 main things. We use it to reduce our cost. When it comes to cost, it's a labor cost, material cost, or energy cost. And energy cost is a big focus right now with all the energy prices going in the world, especially in the Europe side. The second area where we see applications of AI are in the throughput improvement. How do we make more in the same amount of time that we have? The third area is how do we keep our machines operational for as long as possible? We have these gigantic rolling mills that are very few in the world, actually. You can only count like 20 or so hot rolling mills in the entire world. So keeping those machines operational is quite important for us. So predictive maintenance is a very big project that we do. And then finally, on the defect reduction, how do we kind of like reduce our loss and sell more to the customers? And we have seen applications of AI in all those 4 areas. And then apart from operations, then of course, supply chain, procurement have their own applications of AI.
Great, thank you so much again for sharing. And for GE, I'm sure with the hybrid energy and the power, you have a lot of manufacturing and equipment. How has that have impacted on your end?
Definitely. I think like Amit touched upon, the way that we think about prioritization is SQDC, and in that specific order, right? It's safety, quality, delivery, and cost, right? And that's our big motto when it comes to having a lean culture inside of the company, right? Which, if some of you have followed what GE's journey has been in the last few years, there is a huge uptick in the stock price that you're seeing and whatnot. It's largely because of the lean cultural transformation that we're trying to lead. And everything that we do, including AI, would dovetail into that strategy, right? And one of the things, if you look at last year after COVID, as the world opened up and whatnot, something that hit us from nowhere is all the supply chain challenges, right? If you go to Walmart or if you go to buy your car, you don't have semiconductors, part shortages, commodity prices going through the roof in a way that we have never seen, and logistical prices like shipping, something in a container just went through the roof. These are things that we never planned for, right? So in order to deliver the SQDC to our customer, planning is a very, very important aspect, right? So if you plan better, you can significantly come out with excellent outcomes. So how do we utilize artificial intelligence to predict commodity prices, predict demand, right? And then being able to plan in a much better fashion guarantees that outcome to our stakeholders and to our customers, right? So that has been a huge area of focus for us that we have been looking at. And like Amit was mentioning, all the other areas, most importantly starting with efficiency and productivity gains, is front and center, reducing defects when it comes to quality by advanced image recognition. These are important, right? So these are few areas which makes us excited about the future, and it's also important on how do you rally people together on this journey to scale it across the organization, right? We don't want this to be like a few people's initiative. We want this to be like a people's movement, right? That's really what we're trying to do.
Great, thank you. And this is really interesting for me also. Shipping sensors to Apple, quality is the first thing. If one defect comes up, we have to show a lot more data. So building systems that drive quality, and then also in turn feeding back, and I don't see manufacturing separate from innovation. You can bring that back and build better products, because that data and information is very important to build the future of the products. Now, delving into the challenges and opportunities. This is again from experience, shipping sensors. I was mentioning earlier to the panel that we had factories in Asia, and then sensors are very sensitive. And then you have buildings that also vibrate, and we're selling accelerometers and testing accelerometers and gyroscopes. They sense the environment. And when your reference systems and your equipment, everything are in that environment, how do you differentiate if there is a problem, and then later on your customer comes and tells, oh, I see a problem? How can we turn those challenges into opportunities and build new systems that improve that quality and other areas that are important to your line of business? So I start with Prashanth, if you would like to dive in that area.
So is it more towards the challenges?
Challenges, and then you can
right?
also pick up on the opportunities that you saw on your.
I think the biggest challenge that we see, I'll just hit on maybe the top two. The first thing is security, right? We talked about safety. It's not only safety of people and health, it's also safety of their data, right? Today when we talk about AI, that's the first thing that comes to people's mind. Is my privacy protected? Is my confidential data in the company protected, right? That is really the first thing that we need to address, because today we cannot directly take an, build a product and put an API to a ChatGPT or something like that, right? So we have more security processes to go through. That's really front and center when we think of building a product and how do we leverage AI to make sure that's safe for our customers, that's safe for our people. The second thing is, on a very practical level, if you go to a factory floor, not a lot of machines are the way that you see it in the YouTube videos. I mean, in the automobile sector, yes, a lot of automation, robots, right? There are still a lot of traditional manufacturing facilities, right? The sensors aren't that great. So it brings back the challenge of data quality, and sometimes the data isn't even there, right? So what do you do, right? So those are critical challenges, and the way that we address it is very fundamentally looking at, okay, where can we start? Where in the business do we have data? Let's start there, right? With a decent level of reliability. And then slowly also work on improving the sensors. And I think Tony mentioned about digital twins and connecting machines. That is really important to also look at the hardware aspects of it, so that the physical world give us enough data to then take it into the digital world and then process it and bring in the power of AI to deliver much better outcomes, right? And we've been in this journey for a while, even starting from 2010. We just called it data science, right? And with ChatGPT popularizing it, there is much more appetite, and it started trending more. So the idea is, how do we utilize this to generate even better outcomes, right? So these are 2-3 areas that we are really focusing on when it comes to addressing challenges.
Great, thank you for sharing. And Amit, would you share on your end?
Yeah, I can probably add a couple of more challenges to that equation. And I'll touch upon people challenge and technology challenge, right? So manufacturing, as everyone knows, to a large extent is a traditional industry, right? Where people have done things in certain ways for 30, 35 years. An average tenure in our plants is about 30 years. The workers have been doing the same thing for 30 years. And now this new thing coming up, they have seen many things coming up and go. So they just have natural pessimism or skepticism about the success of these things. So how do you get those people along with you on the journey and transform the organization? That's a big challenge, right? And we struggled quite a bit with that. And to this day, we still struggle with that. But a few things that we have learned from that experience is you need to start finding your champions early on, right? When you start a use case, right? Get the people who are actually going to be the end users involved early on. Find those people who are really adaptable to change, and get them be the spokesperson for your change, right? So we are building an AI model, it's going to automate certain things. Well, get somebody who has interest, desire, and proclination for using that, and then they become advocate for your thing inside the plant. And when you do that, that basically helps you with the change management part inside the plant. So that's one side that we have seen a challenge and how we have tried to solve it. On the technology side, when it comes to AI, right, there is cloud, there is a whole IT world, right, where cloud is there, data lakes are there, right, and you're training these models with using large data. Well, there is an OT world in the manufacturing side, which is separate from the IT world, right, and historically, the IT-OT divide has been there, which is a big barrier for transforming, deploying machine learning models inside the plants. Plants are typically closed from internet, right? So how do you overcome all those challenges and deploy your machine learning or AI models inside of the plants to make difference? And that is a big challenge. And now we are trying to solve that challenge. My colleague actually gave a talk on that, where we have built some deployment solutions in-house to solve that problem.
Great, yeah, a lot of that is resonating with me. And Tony, you were very excited to talk about the challenges, and Mars has over 120 factories around the world and operations, so we'd love to hear that.
Yeah, so I can share two stories. So us as well as it's the people side of it. So when you talk about AI, people get worried about the jobs, they get worried about what it actually means. But when you include them and be very user-centric, there's one example where we check our Skittles every day. Every few minutes actually, to make sure we have the right blend of all the colors in a pack. It's a very time-consuming process. An operator sits there and actually manually checks that. And we created a solution internally, just putting a basic camera on top of a box, and now it counts those Skittles, and it made the operator's life easier. Their job still exists. Now they just have an easier day, and they want it to the point where they ask me every time. It's not even my role anymore, but they still reach out to me if something happens where it doesn't work. So on that end, because we included them on that journey and it showed how it improves their life, they're fully on board and using it. On the other end, if they're at every level, like even at our senior level for maintenance, for example, when we talk about predictive maintenance, there's different meanings to predictive maintenance in different people's worlds. So in IT, you would probably just take it as you take some data, send it up to some type of model that gives you predictions and tells you when things are going wrong. But if you talk to someone in maintenance, I was arguing with someone for a year until I finally understood their definition of predictive maintenance is measuring the slack of a chain, and that means that we have X amount of days or weeks left before the chain fails. So they're predicting using data, but it's not that type of prediction that we're talking about using AI. So making sure everyone's on the same page in terms of like the language we're using and also taking them on that journey, I think it puts everyone on the same page, and it helps drive it forward and really sustain it.
Great, amazing. Again, coming from experience, this one area that is very critical for manufacturing, that you have engineers, talent shortage is one problem, and having this information and data to be able to upskill the workforce. They can manage more machines from the technician side. Engineers can learn more and find problems that actually relate to that sort of industry, and then have the employees and the workers in the factory to be more knowledgeable, so they can grow within their line of work versus just being limited to think that this is the only thing they can do and increase their capabilities. Switching gears, would love to learn from you, Tony, on the trends and strategies with respect to the AI, and if there are any also possibly regulations, et cetera, that applies to it. Feel free to share on your end.
Yeah, I guess trend-wise, what we're looking at now, like we've tried every buzzword, tried everything that exists out there, so now it's really standardizing using some of it. But we're looking at like the large language models like ChatGPT. We talked about labor shortages. How do we manage when there's associates in our factories that have been there for 20, 30 years, and now that they're retiring and moving on, who do you ask questions to is a question. Like how do you retain that knowledge? And we're looking into similar solutions like ChatGPT, not just to review our documents, but if you connect it to our OEM manuals, so how do I adjust this set point? It can look through our manuals and tell you the answer, but also connect the data to our actual lines and tell you that based on these correlations, can you guys still hear me? Yeah. Based on these correlations, this is what adjustment you need to make. So having an assistant for them and not having someone that like you have to rely on two associates that are subject matter experts, and having a system where anytime you need support, you know where to go. That seems to be a trend, and that seems to be something that's emerging. I know there's a lot of risk of getting the wrong information. People talk about the hallucinations and things you'll see with ChatGPT. So there are solutions that we've seen where they're putting a layer on top where it filters and validates the suggestions that it's making, so that we're not giving the operators the wrong information. So that's an area in terms of trend that we're looking at. Regulation-wise, I think we're all very still new to the world of at least large language models, and I don't think we have a clear strategy yet. But just being here this week, it sounds like a lot of companies are working on that, and we're just going to continue to partner with others and learn best practice. Great.
Thank you so much for sharing. And Amit, would you please share on your end from Novelis?
Yeah, so the thing I'm kind of like, in terms of trends, the thing I'm quite excited about is how does AI and robotics basically come together, right? Right now, as Tony mentioned, and also Mike, there is a real labor shortage in the manufacturing area. We have many plants where it takes like 6-8 months to find people, and then once we find them, they only stay for like few months, and then they find a job in Walmart, and they prefer that job over working on the shop floor. So that shortage is real. So how do we create robots that supplement the existing workforce, right? So there's a cobot solution that I think have been implemented in many companies. But what I'm excited about is how can AI now work in conjunction with robots? Actually, Google published a paper that just came out last week, actually, on their RT2 transformer, which is a new transformer that can actually take language as input and convert that to robotic instructions. And when that starts happening in reality, I think there will be a lot of benefits that we can all leverage from it. So I think I'm looking forward to that particular
Very exciting. Thank you for sharing. And Prashanth, please.
Yeah, so in terms of trends, a couple of things. One is, again, on the security aspect of things, the regulation aspect that you talked about, it really needs to catch up because the exponential growth in technology that we are seeing is something that we have never seen before, right? So the regulations needs to really catch up, and it needs to be much more modern, and the industry, academia, all the inputs needs to be taken, because we have a lot of things to talk about, such as how do we make sure there is no ethical violations when we build the systems, right? AI systems. How is there no bias involved, right? So if we use it for a HR process in manufacturing, how are we going to address bias, right? What are the regulations for it? And most importantly, the cybersecurity aspects, right? And the second thing that we are seeing, again, related to more going deeper on the cybersecurity aspect, is we are seeing this appetite for homegrown on-prem solutions. Versus, for consumer industry, you can actually, like if you're an individual, you can go for a ChatGPT or whatnot, but there is a specific enterprise level data security and cybersecurity aspects that's required to build systems for enterprises, right? That, I think, are key trends that I see will pick up even more, as I have no doubt in my mind that as Amit was pointing to, the labor shortages, the easiest way to address it is by by combining robotics and AI together. But these factors such as ethics and cybersecurity are so critical, and I would definitely imagine more and more companies joining that, and I think it will be a good discussion and a good debate when we have it with openness and an excitement for the future together. So these are two main trends that I see to scale AI to the future.
Amazing. So I'm going to talk also a bit about my passion. I really believe that enterprise metaverse is the game changer also for manufacturing. Working with part of my consulting with some of the clients in terms of giving you an example, I used to buy machines from Italy and then put them in Asia. How can you shorten some of the bring up cycles of training the workforce before you actually get the machines, because they take time to be built. So, and then also building that immersive experience to train the workforce with the VRs, or ARs, that they can actually, maintain the machines and keep them up. What in your line of business you think is passion for you, or you would like to share that you believe is going to be a game changer? And we haven't shared this, so this is like a new question I'm asking, so now you may need to think. So whoever is ready to go first.
I can start with the safety one. So a lot of the time when you go through these transformations, you don't think about the safety aspect, because it's on top of what we're trying to do for worker safety in the factory. But we're always going full steam ahead on how do we apply AI to everything, that you sometimes forget to prioritize that. So I think what we're looking to look a lot more into is how do we apply AI to like our cameras that we have at workplaces. And it's not to spy on people, and we really work to blur out faces and everything else, but when you're in unsafe areas in our factories where it's high risk, how do we alert someone before someone gets killed, right? So if we can, we've tried deploying robots from like Boston Dynamics. We have the Spot robot walking around in areas where can we replace people having to go to those areas and use a robot instead? Because if a robot gets hit by a forklift, who cares? We'll just have to replace it. But can we also include AI from our vision systems and our cameras to alert people, and also for us to know where is highest risk, and help build plans around that. So really going backwards a little bit and focusing on people and making sure that we're keeping them safe, and how do we use AI to do that?
Great. Thank you for sharing. And any of you are ready to go first?
I can go.
Go ahead, please.
In all the enhancements or scaling that we are predicting in AI, we would be seriously bottlenecked by the compute power. That's finally what it would come down to. So a big trend or a big tipping point would be an advancement or innovation in the semiconductor spaces to have better computing power, right? I don't know what that is. If I have to predict, people talk about quantum computing on how it can, process at an atomic level and increase the computing power to, exponential levels. So something like that would definitely happen, is what I'm predicting. If I have a crystal ball in front of me, that's what it would say. That would really be a tipping point in the way that the acceleration or the curve would really take a completely unexpected turn. But I just think we have to be ready, because few months back or few years back, we didn't know a ChatGPT will happen and we'll be sitting here discussing this, right? So I think we just have to be more nimble and available to disruptions, and like that compute power semiconductor innovation is key in my view for us to take this the next step.
Great, thank you for sharing. I'll mention something on that, but if Amit, you're ready.
Yeah, I think we are actually at Novelis, we are launching this or running this initiative called Plant of the Future, which is where we are trying to take our plants to the next level in our digital journey. And one aspect that's, I think, just to echo what is said, edge computing is going to become very critical in the future, right? How do we take these models that are large and deploy those on edge compute, which are small, and they can make inferences on that edge compute. So what that means is two things. One is making the edge compute stronger, and second is how do we make the models smaller, right? How do we make the models remove unnecessary things and only deploy the gist of the model inside those edge computes? So I think we are trying some things out right now in our current Plant of the Future initiative. But I think I'm seeing like a lot of work happening in that area in the future.
Great, thank you for sharing. I'll share three things with respect to a few items that mentioned here. One is with regards to edge compute. This was early on that we were doing for the sensors, using Raspberry Pis and some of the other boards to run 2 to 3 layer DNNs to actually calibrate sensors. So think of it in a manufacturing, if I have to go and buy a $20 million machine, how can I use my existing machines, use the data I have with some thin layer of machine learning and AI to basically make my sensors perform better. So we were able to improve the noise and offset of our sensors by twice without going and investing capital. In terms of semiconductor, I'm gonna pick some of the stuff from my talk yesterday. So accelerated computing is the game changer, and the next semiconductor products that come out, the platforms that use AI and generative AI to pack more features so that we have more compute power within the existing footprints of these tiny yet powerful. And by 2025, we're going to have about 180 zettabyte of data. How are we going to make sense out of that? So taking some of that to the edge, and then data systems that we can make better sense out of them. So with that, I want to thank you, Prashanth, Amit, Tony. It's a pleasure. And have an amazing rest of your day and the event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.